So some of you know how I was playing around with an STR Rose in one of my previous videos, and today they actually announced a brand new Rose, and funnily enough it kind of coincides with the re-release of this series, and some of you are probably familiar with it, and it's essentially Card Art Origins, but I'm taking this beyond what it was before, and it's going to go way more in depth. I have a ton of fantastic super attacks to show you, and I hope you guys do enjoy the video. But what I want you guys to do, please go ahead and check out the channel in the description. Shout out to my boy Steve for helping me put this together. Would not be possible without him. Honestly, makes absolutely incredible super attacks, which you will see later on. And just to quickly go over how these videos work, in the first portion of the video, I will show the in-game art that is currently in Dokkan, obviously. So I'm Dokkan's Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, and then the Dokkan version. And then I will also show the art for LR Black and Zamasu and where that comes from. And on top of that, I will also be showing off the super attacks and where they come from. But just to let you guys know, this most likely isn't going to be that frequent of a thing, but maybe once a month, maybe not, we shall see. But as always, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Of course, let's go ahead and get started with the Dokkan's art for Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, and this is from episode 56 of Dragon Ball Super, and of course this is one of his most iconic poses, on top of the one where he has his hand to his head. But you can definitely tell that this is where it originates from. You have that exact same smirk in the Dokkan Battle card art as well as in the anime. The only real difference is that you can't see his entire body in just one shot in the anime. But overall, this is definitely where it comes from. But now moving on to the super attack. So of course the super attack that you saw right there was Divine Lasso, Fist God Slicer, God Slicer Dance, whatever you want to go with. It has multiple names, but initially I was actually an extremely big fan of this super attack, and it's just because we never saw anything like that before. Obviously in the anime, that was just a completely unique move to Goku Black. We never saw anything like that in the games. Obviously there weren't too many games that he could be in, but the point is it was an extremely unique attack, and the fact that it was somewhat in the game was extremely pleasing to me. But after watching it, it's just like they leave so many important moments out of that particular attack, and of course you will see later on when I show you guys the revised version. But some of the major parts that they actually leave out of the super attack is Goku Black flying towards Goku, and obviously just moving around, throwing his spikes at him. And of course another thing that they missed out on completely was the movement of Goku Black right before he finishes Goku off, which I felt would have been a nice touch. But again, with the new Goku Black coming out, who knows, we may be seeing a brand new Divine Lasso, we may be seeing a Scythe, which I would imagine is going to be the case. But definitely stick to the end of the video if you want to see that. And to be fair, they could also go with the Black Kamehameha, which happened once in the series, of course, so I could definitely see one of those happening. But overall, that is the origins for the Dokkan Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black art, as well as his super attack. And of course, the super attack comes from episode 61 of Dragon Ball Super. And now if we move on to the Dokkan art, this actually originates from a Dragon Ball Heroes card, which I definitely thought was a bit interesting. I'm surprised that they didn't go with a particular scene from the anime. So it definitely was a bit of a surprise for them to go with Heroes art, and I'm not particularly that fond of this art in particular, so I am curious to see what art they go with when it comes to the brand new Super Saiyan Rose coming out in the next few days. But nonetheless, you can tell that there aren't that many differences at all between the two, apart from the fact that maybe in the Dragon Ball Heroes art, Rose's legs or Goku Black's legs are a bit wider apart, and he has a bit of a different grin, but for the most part it's the exact same art. You can tell that this is where it originates from, and again comes from a Dragon Ball Heroes card. And now the super attack is actually where it gets a bit weird, because the first part I kind of feel like they just threw that bit in there to make it a bit longer. But like I showed you guys, when you get towards the end of the super attack, it actually comes from two different episodes. Of course, you have the episode where Goku Black stabs Vegeta through the chest. Of course, this is episode 61 of Dragon Ball Super. This happens right after Vegeta attacks Black, and he kind of just gets demolished. And then right after, we jump to episode 57 of Dragon Ball Super, where Goku Black blasts the opponent down. And of course, this is what happens to Goku at the end of the Shida cut, which is one of the best animated moments in the entirety of that arc. But it definitely was interesting of them to combine both attacks that came from episode 56 and 57 of Dragon Ball Super. And it does work pretty well. To be honest, I'm not as big of a fan of this super attack in comparison to the first one. But I do like that they added two different elements of two different episodes into a super attack, despite the first part coming out of nowhere essentially, which is fine because of course most super attacks do have the same, but when it comes to this, it's just kind of like, where does this come from? And of course the same can be applied to the 18 key super attack of LR Black and Zamasu, admittedly. But just to quickly go over everything, of course the art comes from Dragon Ball Heroes, and the super attacks come, or a portion of the super attacks come from episode 56 of Dragon Ball Super, which is where he stabs Vegeta through the chest, and 57 where he blasts Goku down. And of course, now moving on to LR Black and Zamasu, and this is in fact an eye catch, so I'm actually super happy that they ended up using this art again. The only real difference between the two arts, apart from the fact that Goku Black has a bit more of a grin in the card art, and obviously in the anime, a portion of Goku Black and Zamasu is cut off, but again, it's not that big of a deal. This is where it originates from. I believe it's eye catch. Started coming up around episode 56 of Dragon Ball Super, somewhere around that period, which again is expected because that's the episode that he kind of turned into Super Saiyan Rose. It may have been episode 57 just to let people adjust to the new form, but basically from 56 onwards, that is where you're going to find this art in the anime. And now when it comes to the 12 key super attack, you do have the portion of the super attack where Black and Zamasu kind of power up, and that bit isn't in the anime, but that's kind of just a Dokkan thing where they have units power up before they do a super attack, so I will allow them when it comes to that particular part. But if you compare it to the anime, and where it kind of differs is the fact that the blast kind of heads toward a building instead of an opponent. Obviously it does end up landing on an opponent, which is Trunks and Vegeta. You can tell that there aren't that many differences at all between the two. You saw how I managed to intertwine, well, I've done this for the previous super attacks as well, just so you can see certain differences, and of course I'll go over the similarities as well. But you can definitely see how it's essentially the exact same super attack, exact same angles, the blast getting bigger as it goes on. The only real difference is the fact that in the anime it hits a building, whereas of course in the actual game it hits the opponent and then it just kind of blows up a portion of the area that you are in. But definitely one of the most accurate depictions of this super attack in a game. It's a bit of a shame that the 18 key super attack didn't come from a scene in the anime, but yeah, you know what, it's just band life things, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to exempt that particular super attack from this video just because I couldn't find anything remotely close to what happens there. And now this is where things get really, really interesting. Big shout out to Steven. Again, I mentioned him at the start of the video. Could not have done this without him. Go ahead and check him out in the description below. Basically, he shows the super attacks in full because obviously I am kind of showing the comparison between the anime and the actual super attack animations, but Steven shows them in full, both of them by the way, which are going to be coming up pretty soon, and he also shows the process of it being completely done, so please go ahead and check him out. Awesome guy. So happy that he allowed me to do this. Let's go ahead and get started with the Divine Lasso Rose. Of course, this originates from episode 61 of Dragon Ball Super, right as he finishes off Super Saiyan Blue Goku. One of my favorite super attacks in the entirety of the series. Unfortunately, we only see it once, but this, of course, is the inspiration for the art. The only real difference, well, a massive difference actually, is that we do not get to see front view for the super attack in the anime. So I thought that it would probably be better if we went with a front view for the actual card art. Otherwise, it just wouldn't really look that good. But of course, like the unawakened super attack for Super Saiyan Rose, this also originates from there. So you can definitely see how much more accurate this depiction of the Divine Lasso is. Again, you can call it whatever you want, but we have the parts that were initially missing in the unawakened super attack for the agility one. In this newer one, we have Goku Black actually getting the blade out and pushing it to his side. We have Goku Black rushing towards Goku. We can see the movement of the blade and obviously the spikes going towards Goku's body. And then of course right at the end, we have Black finishing it off with the little dance at the end, which was one of the bigger parts of the super attack, which unfortunately is missing in the agility one. And unfortunately, Dokkan is kind of limited when it comes to certain frames, so it's not like 100% smooth like in the anime, but it's still pretty damn good for the capabilities of Dokkan, and I'm glad that he was capable of replicating the super attack as well as he did. And of course, just to confirm again, both the art and the super attack come from episode 61 of Dragon Ball Super. So it's actually been confirmed that the Super Saiyan Rose coming to Dokkan, the new one of course, is going to have a Scythe attack, or we assume just based off the quote which talks about how he's turning his anger into power, so it basically means that he's going to get the Scythe attack, right? And funnily enough, me and Steven came up with the idea of having a Scythe super attack, so of course this art in particular originates from episode 64 of Dragon Ball Super. Unfortunately, he did not use the Scythe that much, so Steven did have to get a bit creative with the super attack. But to be honest, the only real difference between the card that I'm showing you now and of course the anime is the fact that Goku Black's left arm is in a slightly different position. The Scythe extends a bit more behind his left arm, and of course the positioning of the actual camera is a bit further away in the anime, but for the most part you can definitely see that this is where it originates from. But now time to show off the super attack, which would honestly be my favorite super attack in the game if it was the actual thing. So I am curious to see what Bandai does with it, but this is Steven's depiction. So you can definitely tell that the first few seconds of the super attack are basically as accurate as it can get. Obviously, you have Goku Black plunging the Keyblade into his hand. You have the Scythe attack and of course the crack in the world, the void, whatever you want to call it. You have the clones coming from the portal, of course. And you do have the clones getting a few attacks in on Goku and Vegeta. But from that point forward, Steven did have to get extremely creative. And one small detail that I absolutely love about what he did past the point of the clones attacking Goku and Vegeta is the little spin that Rose does with the Scythe. I think that's an incredible touch. And then the rest of the super attack animation just looks absolutely incredible. I am honestly super happy with it. As soon as I saw it, I was honestly, I was like a kid. I was like, okay, this is extremely hype. I want to see something like this in the actual game. And again, I've gone over this multiple times in different videos, well, I hope anyway. I've never really particularly been that fond of Rose's super attacks. I thought they were decent at best, but then again, that was back when Bandai didn't put too much effort into the super attacks. But if they were to release some now, like they are, it's like, I expect big things. So I think I've pretty much covered everything. Of course, that is the origins for all the Rose cards in the game. Unfortunately, couldn't get the origins for the 18-key super attack for the legendary rare. Of course, I showed you guys the new concepts, essentially. Divine Lasso super attack and art. Of course, we have the Scythe as well. I just had so much fun putting this video together, and I'm hoping that I can do this at least once a month. And again, I'm going to say this one more time just because of how well he did the super attacks. Shout out to Steven for helping me do this. Wouldn't be possible without him. And it's just such a coincidence that they announced the Rose a few days after I do like my President of Bandai thing, you know, the summoning video. And then I was actually planning on dropping this tomorrow, which would be the 26th. So the fact that it's coming out now is, well, pretty soon. It's just mind-boggling. Definitely didn't expect to see that. So a bit of a Christmas present for you all, I suppose. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video as always. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one.